Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Oh yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And two, up today, another team preview. We're doing previews every single day of the week, almost, from now until the start of college football season. I've done 5 or 6 already, Michigan, Clemson, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. I don't know, I've done several. I've made a playlist. It's gonna have all the team previews in it. I'll put a link to that playlist up top right here now if you want to click on it and check out a different team's video instead of this one. Today, Washington Huskies, Pac-12 team, high expectations out there. We're gonna get right into that team preview here in just a second, but before we do, let me give a shout out to Jamie W. He suggested that I do a Washington preview. He suggested that over on the Uncle Lou Patreon page. If you're not a member on the Uncle Lou Patreon page, click the first link in the description of this video or any video I've uploaded in the last month or so. Click the first link, the one that says, do you want to support the channel and win a jersey? Click that link. It'll take you over to the Uncle Lou Patreon page and you can sign right up. It's really easy. All members of the Patreon page are sending me 2 teams that they want me to preview, and I'm making sure I do those 2 teams first. So Jamie W., his suggestions were actually Notre Dame and Washington. So did Notre Dame for him, I don't know, last week sometime, doing Washington today. If you're not subscribed to the Uncle Lou channel, do it now. Trying to get to 10,000 before the season starts. Y'all help me out. If you're a Washington Huskies fan, thumbs up this video, share it with your friends. If you're a Pac-12 fan, thumbs up this video, share it with your friends. Or if you're just ready for the start of college football and you're excited, then give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get right into today's team preview, the Washington Huskies. Let's go. Wrap up 2017 for the Huskies. Fell a game short of what they really wanted to do in the regular season, right? 1 game short of making it back to the Pac-12 title game. Losses at Arizona State and at Stanford, I believe, were Washington's losses last year. So that kept them out of the Pac-12 title game. Of course, 2 years ago, they won the Pac-12 and made the college football playoffs, lost in the first round to Alabama, I believe it was. So a pretty good year last year for Washington, but not quite at the expectations that have been set over the last few years under Chris Petersen at Washington. So a little bit of a disappointing year last year for most Husky fans. So what did they lose from last year? What do they have coming back from last year? Well, on offense, it's almost an unfair amount of talent returning from last year. You look at their quarterback, Jake Browning. Seems like the guy's been there forever, starting forever. A great quarterback. Now, he took a step back last year, which is a little unexplainable. I don't have the exact numbers written down, but he threw something like 40 touchdown passes in 2016, and then about half of that in 2017. So in 2018, I think he'll be looking to get back closer to that 40 touchdown mark as opposed to the 20 or so he had last year. And those numbers may be a little off, and someone will let me know if they are. But that's basically the case. His touchdowns dropped significantly in 2017. Now, one of the reasons for that could be running back Myles Gaskin. I mean, this guy is absolutely amazing. If you haven't watched Washington play, their running back Myles Gaskin is one of the most exciting players to watch in college football, in my opinion. He's not a huge, big, bruising type of guy, but he's one of these cut and slash type of guys. Now, he's got some power. I mean, it's not that he won't hit you, but he's just one of those really exciting type players to watch. He's had, I want to say he's had over like 1,300 yards rushing in all 3 seasons he's been at Washington. So his rushing numbers, I mean, he's steady, right? So you can expect him this year to have 1,300 plus rushing yards again. Probably closer to the 1,500 mark if things go the way Washington wants them to go. So Jake Browning doesn't necessarily have to be throwing 40 or 50 touchdown passes a year for the Washington offense to be effective. On the offensive line, absolutely loaded. They have 2 NFL tackles. These guys are, one of them 6'7", one of them 6'8". I mean, they're going to be playing on Sunday. So offensive line, solid. Quarterback, solid. Running back, solid. The only real question mark on Washington's offense is at the wide receiver position. And it's not that they don't have good wide receivers. They do. They don't really have a proven guy that can stretch the defense. They've lost some wide receivers over the last couple of years to graduation, used up their eligibility, whatever. So if they can find a guy on the outside, a real burner type of guy who can take the top off of defenses on the back end, Washington's going to be close to having an unstoppable offense, in my opinion. It could be one of the best offenses in college football this year. We'll have to see, but they're going to be really, really good on that side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, an NFL secondary. Good luck trying to throw the ball against this team. Now, where you're going to have to look to take advantage of Washington on defense this year, I think, is along their defensive front. Similar to the wide receiver position on offense, they've got some talent on the defensive front, but they lost, what's the guy's name? He's got a weird name, Vita Vea or something like that. They lost that guy to the NFL. I believe his replacement, I think, only had 1.5 sacks last year or something like that. So they're looking for somebody new to step up on the defensive line, on the defensive side of the ball. Now, Chris Peterson at Washington has been recruiting at an elite level. They've got people waiting to step in. So it's just we haven't seen them do it yet type of thing. It's not that they don't have the talent there. But if you're looking for a weakness, linebacker, I think they'll be okay at linebacker, defensive line. The only real question mark, I think, on the defensive side of the ball. No real holes this year for the Washington Huskies. I mean, you're really nitpicking here when I'm talking about a wide receiver taking the top off or, a defensive lineman stepping up to replace Vita Vea, whatever the hell his name is. Washington is a solid, loaded team, and it's realistic for Washington fans to expect a Pac-12 title and a playoff berth this year. We'll see if they can get there. I'm going to throw the schedule up on the screen, and we will go through it game by game. You guys know how this works, okay? There's going to be some games on this schedule that I think are guaranteed wins, and some games that I think are guaranteed losses, depending on the team. There may not be any guaranteed losses. We'll see when we get there. But I don't spend a lot of time on those games, okay? If there's a game that I feel like might go either way, I'll list that as a toss-up game as I'm going through the schedule. And then when I get through the schedule, I will come back and talk in more detail about those toss-up games and pick a winner or a loser. This is just a way to condense the video down a little bit so I'm not spending 10 minutes explaining why Oregon is going to beat the hell out of North Dakota. Or not Oregon, I'm sorry, Washington. Anyway, let me put the schedule up. All right, so there's the schedule. Washington Huskies 2018. Per usual, I've got the schedule written down here. I can't remember these teams' schedules home and away. Way too busy and important to be remembering 60, 70, 80 different people's schedules, however many of these preview videos I'm going to end up doing. All right, no sense in beating around the bush here. Week 1, neutral site game, Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Washington Huskies take on defending SEC West champion Auburn Tigers. This is one of the biggest games, not just of week 1, but really of the entire college football season, especially when you start looking at non-conference games. Both of these teams have sky-high expectations. Both of these teams are in the top 10 or close to being in the top 10, depending on which sort of preseason polls you look at. Okay, this is going to be a really good game here. Obviously, I have this as a toss-up game to start the season. I will come back, talk more about this game, and give you a winner here in just a minute. All right, then you get North Dakota at home. Win. It's not even North Dakota State. North Dakota State's the FCS school that's won like 6 of the last 7 FCS national titles. It's not even that. It's regular North Dakota. If you were playing North Dakota State, it would be a much better game. You'll beat North Dakota by as many points as Chris Peterson deems necessary. This could be a 100-0 type game if you just let the starters go out there and murder them for 60 minutes. At Utah, week 3, you open up your conference play in week 3 on the road at Utah. I think Utah, they're okay. They're headed in the right direction. I have this game listed as a toss-up only because it's on the road, okay? And like we mentioned last year, you caught a couple of L's on the road. So I have this as a toss-up. We'll come back to it at the end, and I'll give you a winner or a loser. You're obviously a much more talented team than Utah. Okay, week 4, another conference game here, but back at home for you. You take on Arizona State. When Arizona State's just not ready to compete in big boy football. They're just not. They had another terrible season last year. I don't see any reason why that changes this year. Yes, you had an unexplainable loss or whatever last year on the road. That was one of those weird during the week night game type of things. That's not how, you're not losing to Arizona State at home. A big win for you there. Another non-con game, and depending on who you ask, some people would consider this to be a Power 5 opponent. BYU. Win. I mean, you'll destroy them. I don't know what's happened to BYU. They won 4 games last year, worst record since 1970. You're going to beat the bejesus out of them, and obviously you play them at home, an advantage for you. Well, Washington, one of the best home field advantages on the West Coast, and it's not even close, to be honest. So you guys should handle BYU without a problem. Now, your next game, you go on the road and take on the Fighting Chip Kellys. Of course, Chip Kelly been brought into UCLA to turn that thing around. They lose Josh Rosen, UCLA does, to the NFL, which is good news, really, because that's just not the type of quarterback Chip Kelly's looking for. Let's be honest, he doesn't really care if you can throw the ball. He wants one of these run-around type guys. UCLA's been a below-average team in recent memory. I mean, let's just be honest, y'all. You think about football in Los Angeles, you think about Southern Cal. Even though Southern Cal's been down, they haven't been this down. UCLA in really bad shape right now. And honestly, even though a lot of people are high on this Chip Kelly hire because of the things he did at Oregon, et cetera, it wouldn't surprise me at all if UCLA has a similar record this year to what they had last year. They just don't have the pieces there to run what Chip Kelly wants to do. It's going to take at least 2 or 3 good recruiting classes for Chip Kelly to get up and running there. You'll beat UCLA on the road without too much of a problem. All right, that takes you into one of your bigger games of the year, on the road at Oregon. Oregon, another team, pretty loaded. I mean, when you start looking at talent levels in the Pac-12, it's really hard to distinguish between teams like Washington, Oregon, Southern Cal. I mean, these are some Stanford. These are all pretty good teams here. You have to play this one on the road. This is a type of game that a team can lose. A better team can lose this game at this point in the season on the road. I have it as a toss-up. I'll come back, talk a little bit more about that at the end. But that's, I mean, if you're a Washington fan, some of you might not want to admit it, but you're looking at the Auburn game, you're looking at the Oregon game. Those really are the 2 games you're looking at and saying, man, if we can get past those. So that is a big game for you, okay? Now, after that road trip to Oregon, you come back home and you take on Colorado. Another talent and coaching mismatch. You'll take care of that, no problem. Colorado nowhere near where they need to be competing with a team like Washington right now. You'll handle them with little to no effort at all. Then you go on the road at Cal. Who's that? I don't know. Cal, what do we know about Cal? Demetrius Robertson? Yeah, live tomorrow, 1 p.m. I'll probably go live during his stupid-ass commitment ceremony, too, at 1 p.m. tomorrow. So if you want to check that out here on YouTube, you can. But anyway, Demetrius Robertson leaves Cal. Now, Cal has all 11 starters returning on offense last year. Of course, D-Rob was hurt, so he wasn't technically considered a starter. He got hurt early in the year, only played a couple of games. Cal has all 11 starters returning on offense, so no way they'll be as bad as they were last year. All right, sorry about that. I had to stop the video. I was starting to get aggravated about this damn Demetrius Robertson thing, and I couldn't stop. I tried to move on and keep talking about Cal or whatever, and I couldn't get the D-Rob thing out of my head, and I was getting hot, and I felt my head starting to get warm and sweating. Anyway, I had to stop. Forget about all that. You'll beat Cal. There should be no issues there. Stanford, toss up. I mean, Stanford is a talented team. Most people would assume Bryce Love's one of the best players in the game. Anyway, point is, it's a toss-up game. I'll get back to it at the end and give you more information on that game and pick a winner and a loser. Takes you into your bye week. Be nice to have your bye week a little earlier, wouldn't it? Like maybe before that Oregon game. I know this is kind of late in the season. But anyway, you'll win the bye week without a problem. Oregon State at home, win. Is there a worse team than Oregon State? Maybe. Tennessee, Kansas. I mean, you start talking about the worst teams in the Power 5. Who are you talking about? Tennessee, Baylor, Kansas, Oregon State, Rutgers. They're on that list. You'll beat the bejesus out of them. All right, last game of the year on the road, Washington State. Mike Leach. No point in even watching this game except to listen to what Mike Leach talks about after the game. You'll beat them silly. You know, the curiosity factor is starting to wear off with me for Mike Leach. I still enjoy his post-game press conferences, but would it kill him to talk a little bit of football? I'm tired of hearing about Bigfoot and election rumors and all this kind of stuff from that guy. He's a complete weirdo. He's done okay at Washington State. He's elevated the program from when he got there. I think he's won 24 games the last 3 years. They're going to take a step back this year. They lose too much. They're going to be lucky to make a bowl game this year. Honestly, you'll beat them without a problem. All right, that takes us to the toss-ups. All right, so then at Utah, I had listed as a toss-up win. I only put that as a toss-up because it was a road game, and I do like the trajectory of Utah right now, but Utah just doesn't have enough to compete with Washington. They just don't. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I know some people are looking at Washington and trying to find the road game they're going to lose or whatever because of what happened last year. That's not going to be the case at Utah. I think Washington comes out trying to prove a point here, and actually I don't think this game will be close. I give you the win there. What's the next toss-up I had? At Oregon. Loss. Listen, Washington is a better team than Oregon, okay? I like Chris Peterson. Mario Cristobal's never been a head coach before. They basically only promoted Mario Cristobal to head coach at Oregon to try to keep intact the recruiting class that Willie Taggart had started to put together. I get all that. You're a better team. This is on the road. Oregon is a good team, a talented team. Talent-wise, they may be the closest to you that you play. Even more talented than a Stanford. Now, Stanford has the most talented player, obviously, with Bryce Love, but as a team top to bottom, Oregon may be the most talented Pac-12 team you play. Auburn is more talented too. We're going to get back to that in a second. But I just have a feeling at this point in the season, this is where you drop the game that you're not supposed to lose. And that's not an insult. Like I said, almost every team in America loses at least one game a year that they're not supposed to lose. Alabama's had one undefeated season under Nick Saban. So as amazing of a run as Alabama has had, it's not like they have a string of 12-0 or 13-0 or 15-0 or 14-0 seasons. Almost everyone every single year loses one of these games. Would I be shocked if you beat Oregon? No, and you'll probably be favored in that game. And like I said, you're the better team. But it's just hard for a team to go undefeated. I'm giving you a loss there really just because I feel like you're not going to run through the Pac-12 undefeated. And I got to pick somebody, so I'm picking at Oregon. So there it is. Toss-up, Stanford. I think you'll beat them. You get revenge. You'll beat Stanford. You play them at home this year. Bryce Love had a lot of injury problems last year. This game's late in the season. Can he avoid that this year? Now, he played through a lot of those injuries last year and still continued to play at a high level. I mean, Bryce Love at 75 or 80% is better than 99% of the players in America. But, you know, you always have that potential here with this game being late in the season. I just think Stanford, especially on defense, lost too much and doesn't have enough to replace that to hold you guys, Washington, to a few enough points to win. I think you get the win at Stanford, and that takes us back to the Auburn game. Here was the deciding factor for me on this Auburn game, okay? Yes, Washington struggled on the road a little bit last year. The Arizona State game, I mean, I'll go to my grave. Washington fans will too, not knowing how you lost that game. Auburn, similar story. Can't win on the road. All four of their losses last year on the road. In fact, they've lost 2 games in a row. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak. Both of those losses occurred in Atlanta, in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where this Washington-Auburn game is being played. And I trust Chris Peterson with 6 months to prepare way more than I trust Gus Malzahn. I think Washington's secondary is going to do a good enough job shutting down Washington's passing game. I mean, Auburn's passing game. You won't shut it down. Auburn will get some plays. But I'll take Washington's secondary right now over Auburn's receivers. I give you an edge there, okay? And This is a tough game. This is one of the tough. This and LSU Miami to me are tough games to pick. This one is tougher. LSU Miami, I have a feeling where I'm going on that one. This one is even tougher. I'm an SEC homer. I don't hide that. I'm a Georgia fan, but I always pull for the SEC when they're playing these non-con teams. I don't deny it. Washington gets the win. I think Washington comes to Atlanta week 1 and beats Auburn, first game of the year, and probably moves into the top 5 at that point. This would be probably the best win in week 1. I think you get it done. I think you start 1-0, beat Auburn. I think you finish the season 11-1. I'm going to end the video this way. I've got you down at 11-1, beating Auburn, losing to Oregon. Obviously, it's possible that if you beat Auburn, you run through this schedule and go 12-0. It's also possible if you lose to Auburn, you wind up 9-3 or 10-2. The goal of these videos that I do is not really to predict every single game, right or wrong. It's more or less to try to determine a final record. If I had to put my money right now on a final record for Oregon after the regular season in 2018, my money is on 11-1. I think you guys are going to have a great year. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see you in the Pac-12 title game. And honestly, you probably have a pretty good chance of making the college football playoff this year with this schedule if you can avoid any major injuries or any major head-scratching losses. Anyway, that's it. That was a hard one. That Auburn-Washington was a hard one. The Barners will be mad. It is what it is. I'll be pulling for Auburn in that game. So if the Barners want to get in the comment section and cry, they can about me picking Washington to beat them. I'll be pulling for the Barn. I'm an SEC homer. I just don't see it happening. I don't trust Gus Malzahn in this situation. Auburn's not a good road team. I like what Washington has coming back more than I like what Auburn has. Questions at running back and offensive line, I think, are going to hurt Auburn in this game. That's just what it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're not already. And I will see you soon with another team preview. Have a good morning.